Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Thursday, July 28th, 2022. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. We are post FOMC. We had our FOMC statement and rate decision yesterday, followed by the press conference. The 1 o'clock open price there is $39.77 for the ES. The last time we had our FOMC was down here, $37.84. So this is the first time that we've seen a higher print after the FOMC since last year. Last year we had a minor bump higher from the November to the December, barely higher, and then ever since December we've seen lower prints on the FOMC key levels. So this is the first time we're seeing a higher print. That's could be taken as bullish here. We had a pretty high range day after that in the final 2 hours of the day. Today, heading into the RTH Open, fairly narrow range, just 34% of average range as the market awaited the GDP report there. GDP coming in lighter than expected, and at the moment seeing a little bit of a bounce after that. Inside day at the moment, narrow range, but the tendency would be normally for Thursday to have a higher range day than the Wednesday prior with the FOMC. Not always the case, but a high majority of the time we do see a higher range day today. So again, keeping an eye on the upper end of the previous session's range. Any failure at yesterday's high, for example, 40.42s, could lead to a return back toward the midpoint of the day. Perhaps we start to see a push back into the range, and this thing could come and become a bearish outside day down. In the bullish scenario, you definitely want to see price push through the previous session's high and hold those gains, if not, push through and beyond it. So right now, still narrow range. It could go either way. A little bit of a bounce after GDP here, but we're at the point in the chart that it's kind of a do or die zone. If this thing can't get going soon to make the move, you're going to start to rotate back into the range, just as we have within this channel here. So again, watching this edge here very closely. If we take a look here at the NQ, right here, the NQ inside day as well, 44% of average range right now. You can see this narrow range, a bit of a bounce since the GDP report has come out, and we're sitting again right at the recent highs. A little bit of a rounded bottom developing here. That's fairly bullish. We have resistance right up here. That's the previous month's high. Mentioned before that if this thing's going to break through the previous month's midpoint, it opens up a test at the high. So today's the day here where it's trying to hold yesterday's gains, and from there we may see a continuation to the upside if it can get through this area. So again, watching the previous session's high price, a fade there or rejection there could open up a return to the midpoint, and perhaps even a bit lower within the range. So again, watching this edge very closely. Keeping an eye on crude oil here. This thing's up 2% right now. Held the FOMC key level as support today, so here it is. Dropped into that level and bounced. We're still showing strength right now. Yesterday was a failed new low with a push through the midpoint of the prior day's failed new high. Very, very back and forth choppy action here. We've had a significant downturn since those highs at the 123s. This thing turned down very sharply and has been in a very bearish downtrending channel ever since. But right here, something changed. Right here, there was a failure to get a new low at 93s. Right there was a bearish failed new high that couldn't get going, and now we're seeing a failed new low lead to a bullish push higher. We may be looking at the very least, further range-bound action toward the previous week's high at 101. And at the most here, we could be looking at a setup for a continuation higher into next month. So again, keeping an eye on this zone right here. Taking a look at Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin's up 1.58% right now. Again, something that's different that has changed here is that we've seen quite a bit more strength than weakness, and the weakness following strength has been an opportunity to buy again. This weakness here, you're seeing a follow-up buy again. We haven't seen that price action in months. It's literally one day up and hard day down. You know, one day up, back in the range. One day up, back down. Hard day up, hard day down. This thing hasn't stitched together 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, or a week plus in a long time, and it hasn't been able to break above previous highs. You know, this thing was able to rally, pulled back, rallied again, pushed to new highs, pulled back, rallied again, and back above that inflection point. It's fairly bullish from a short-term perspective, and at least demonstrating some potential here to bounce compared to what we've seen recently. The last good time we've seen a rally was in March. Since then, it's been crushed. We could still see a big-time move anywhere out of this range, including down. Heading into next month with a couple days to trade here, you'll see we have an inside value relationship developing for next month, along with a narrow pivot range that could lead to an explosive month in August. Taking a look lastly at ETH futures. This one's up 3.4% right now. Again, demonstrating some of the same characteristics that we mentioned with Bitcoin, only doing so in a much more bullish fashion, to be honest. An initial bounce, the pullback, a failed low, rally, pullback, rally to new highs. We're fully above this prior distribution here, and on this weakness here, we were able to hold the top end of that range. I mentioned before, 1300 was going to be very important on a pullback, and this thing got into the 1360s so before it bounced. So very good move, and again, demonstrating some strength we haven't seen quite before, at least not in a while. Does that translate to much more strength ahead? We will see. An important test at VWAP right here. This is yearly VWAP. That's going to be something to keep an eye on as it continues to develop. Again, remember last year didn't have a fully developed year. Right now this thing is just now developing here, but it's currently at value for the chart that we have on the screen. So again, keeping an eye on this. Above 1300 suggests more short-term strength ahead. Alright, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out heading into the rest of the session. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.